The morning sun had barely lifted over the flat Texas horizon when the call came through. Detective Mara Ellis pulled into the narrow gravel driveway of a faded beige apartment complex, her tires crunching against the silence that lingered in the air. It was one of those places where curtains never opened, and neighbors kept their secrets like prayers. Inside apartment 2B, the smell of gunpowder still clung faintly to the walls. A young woman lay motionless on the hardwood floor, a gunshot wound to the head, blood pooling beneath her auburn hair. The room was neat, almost too neat, as if someone had cleaned up in a hurry. "Time of death?" Mara asked without looking up. "Between midnight and 2 a.m., the coroner replied softly. No signs of forced entry. Guns hers, registered in her name. Mara's eyes swept over the scene. A broken wine glass near the couch. A cell phone missing from the charger. On the nightstand, a single-frame photo of the woman smiling beside a man in a dark uniform. The face was turned just enough that the name tag couldn't be read. The victim's ID read Lena Hart, age 27. No next of kin listed, no emergency contacts, just a P.O. box address in a nearby town. She worked at a club downtown, Elysium Lounge, according to the folded flyer in her purse. It was too quiet for a suicide, too careful for a robbery. Mara crouched beside the body, her gloved hand hovering above the faint powder burns on Lena's temple. "You didn't expect to die last night," she murmured. "You were waiting for someone." Hours later, back at the precinct, Mara flipped through Lena's file. No criminal record, no family connections, a string of part-time jobs. Yet her bank account showed large, consistent deposits, cash, from an untraceable source. The amounts were always the same, transferred every 2 weeks. Who was paying you, Lena? Mara whispered to herself. She opened a small evidence bag containing the photograph found at the scene. The man beside Lena was middle-aged, tall, wearing a warden's uniform. His arm was around her waist, a casual, intimate gesture. His smile looked genuine, but Lena's eyes told another story. Half happiness, half fear. Mara turned the photo over. A handwritten note in faded ink read, "For when it's safe to be seen." That night, Mara sat alone at her desk, reviewing body cam footage. The coroner had ruled the wound self-inflicted, but the angle was wrong, too awkward for suicide. The entry point was slightly behind the right temple, as if someone had guided her hand or stood beside her. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "You're looking for answers that should stay buried. Drop it." No name, no trace, just that warning. Mara leaned back, heart pounding. She knew the tone, not from petty criminals, but from people with power. People who didn't make threats. They issued reminders. She glanced again at the photo on her desk. The man in the uniform. Recognition flickered as she enlarged the image, zooming in on the badge. The faint engraving came into focus. Cole Madsen, Warden, Blackridge Correctional Facility. Her stomach tightened. She had heard that name before. A man with a spotless record and a reputation for discipline, integrity, and silence. A warden and a young woman with hidden money. A death that didn't fit the pattern. A warning text. Something told Mara this wasn't just a lover's tragedy. It was a story of control and secrets that didn't want to be found. She closed the case file for the night, her reflection catching in the dark glass of her office window. Behind her, the evidence board glowed softly under fluorescent light. Lena's photo pinned dead center. In the stillness, Mara whispered to herself, "Let's see who you really were, Lena Hart." Outside, thunder rolled across the horizon, the kind that didn't promise rain but reckoning. The next morning, the first light crept through the blinds of Blackridge Correctional Facility, slicing thin bars of gold across Warden Cole Madsen's desk. He sat in silence, staring at the newspaper headlines spread before him. Local woman found dead in apparent suicide. Sources say foul play possible. The photo was small, grainy, but unmistakable. Lena Hart. Cole's fingers trembled as he folded the paper in half, pressing his palm over her name. Outside his office, the muffled sound of the prison came alive. Guards shouting orders, metal gates clanging, inmates moving through the halls like ghosts on a routine. Inside, he could barely breathe. For 10 years, Cole had been a symbol of order and control in Blackridge, a man of principle, feared and respected. But that control began to unravel the moment Lena walked into his life. A soft knock at the door broke the silence. "Sir, detectives are here to see you." Cole straightened, his massive authority sliding back into place. "Send them in." Detective Mara Ellis entered, her sharp eyes scanning every inch of the room, the framed commendations, the locked file cabinets, the air of a man with nothing to hide. "Warden Madsen," she said, setting a photo on his desk. "You know this woman?" Cole's jaw tightened. "I've seen her before. Around town." "Why?" "She's dead. Found last night." He exhaled slowly, forcing composure. "I read about it. Tragic." Mara leaned forward, watching his face. "You two look close." She slid another photo across, the same one she found in Lena's apartment. Their photo, his arm around her waist. Cole's eyes darkened. "Where did you get that?" "Her apartment." "Mind telling me why a prison warden's photo was sitting beside a dead woman's bed?" For a long moment, he didn't answer. The clock ticked behind him, steady, merciless. Finally, he said quietly, "She came to me months ago. Said she had a brother in here. Wanted a favor. Transfers, visitation, access, that kind of thing. I helped where I could. She was grateful. Grateful enough to end up in your arms." He looked up, sharp, careful. "Detective, you're making assumptions." Mara didn't flinch. "Maybe, but her hidden phone had your number." Cole's composure slipped for just a second. A bead of sweat rolled down his temple. "Then I'll assume you'll do your job and find who really hurt her." Mara studied him. There was guilt, not loud, not obvious, but there, buried under the tone of a man used control. She gathered her files. "We will. I'm sure your cooperation will help." As she left, Cole's mask cracked again. He turned his chair toward the window, the prison yard stretching out before him. Rows of men marched in orange uniforms, their lives reduced to repetition. He remembered Lena's laugh, soft and nervous, the way she said his name when she was scared. "You promised no one would find out." He'd promised, and now she was dead. That night, as the rain began to fall, Cole sat alone in his office long after the others had gone. He unlocked his drawer, pulling out a small velvet box. Inside, a gold necklace, delicate and broken at the clasp. Lena's. He turned it over in his hand, hearing her last voicemail echo in his mind. "Cole, please call me back. I think someone's watching me. I don't feel safe." His breath caught. She had called the night she died. He never picked up. Thunder cracked outside, shaking the window panes. Cole closed the box and locked it away, his reflection glinting back at him in the dark glass. A man haunted by a shadow he created himself. Far across town, Detective Marr replayed Lena's last message, her eyes narrowing at the background noise, a faint metallic echo. Not traffic, not wind, prison gates. The sound matched the one she'd just walked past that morning at Blackridge. Her pen paused above the case file. She knew him better than he admitted. And somewhere in the prison, behind those same gates, someone else did too. Rain still drummed against the windows of Elysium Lounge when Detective Mara Ellis stepped inside the next evening. The smell of cheap perfume and spilled whiskey clung to the air. The place was nearly empty, except for a woman wiping down the counter, her expression tired, watchful. Mara flashed her badge. "I'm looking for someone who worked with Lena Hart." The woman stiffened. "You're too late. Cops already came through this morning. I'm not here to cause trouble. I just want to understand who she was." The woman studied her, then sighed. "Name's Rita. I worked with her for 2 years. She wasn't like the others, didn't party, didn't drink much, always left right after a shift." She hesitated, lowering her voice. But the last few weeks, she'd changed. Mara leaned on the counter. Changed how? She was scared, jumpy, always checking her phone, saying someone was following her. One night, she showed me a message, said if she didn't stop asking questions, she'd regret it. I told her to go to the police. Mara's brows knit. Did she say who was threatening her? Rita hesitated again, glancing around the dim room before whispering. She said it was someone powerful, someone who wore a badge. Mara's pulse quickened. A cop. Rita shook her head slowly. No, higher. The word hung heavy between them. Higher. Before Mara could press further, a door opened in the back. A man in a leather jacket walked out, his gaze sharp and cold. Everything okay here, Rita? Rita's eyes flicked nervously to Mara. Yeah, all good, Vince. The man stared at Mara for a moment too long. Then he left, the door creaking behind him. Mara slipped her card across the counter. If you remember anything else, call me, day or night. Rita nodded, but her hands were trembling. Later that night, Mara sat in her car outside the lounge, watching as Rita locked up. The rain had stopped, but fog rolled low across the street, turning every shadow into something alive. Rita lit a cigarette and glanced around nervously before hurrying to her car. As Mara started her engine, her phone buzzed, an unknown number again. You were told to drop it. No voice, just a text. Mara exhaled slowly, eyes narrowing. Whoever was watching her had access to her number, to the case, maybe to her department. She thought of Lena's fear, of the way she told Rita someone was following her. Someone powerful. Someone higher. That night, Mara reviewed Lena's call logs again. One number stood out, blocked, frequent, always late at night. The last call made was 2 hours before Lena's death. She stared at the timestamp. 1:07 a.m. At that same time, Warden Cole Madsen had claimed he was home, asleep. She needed proof. The next morning, she drove toward Blackridge Correctional Facility again, dawn breaking behind her like a warning. Inside her coat pocket, she kept a photo of Lena and Cole, the same one from the nightstand. She'd shown it to several people, but only one had reacted with fear. Rita. And that fear wasn't just about Lena's death. It was about who else might end up silenced next. Mara's voice was low as she parked outside the prison gates. You wanted to hide in the dark, Cole, she whispered. Let's see what your walls are really keeping. The siren of the outer gate blared as the iron doors rolled open, and the shadow of the prison swallowed her whole. Detective Mara Ellis stood in the evidence room under the humming fluorescent lights, staring at the sealed plastic bag that held Lena Hart's phone. The screen was cracked, the casing scuffed, ordinary at first glance. But Mara's instincts told her this small, broken device was hiding the truth everyone wanted buried. Can you unlock it? She asked the tech specialist hovering beside her. He shrugged. Depends how bad you want it. Passcode's gone, but there's a hidden partition. Someone tried to wipe the drive. Twice. Recover everything you can, she said. Even the ghosts. Hours later, the monitor flickered to life in the digital forensics lab. A cascade of recovered files scrolled down the screen. Mostly deleted photos, encrypted messages, and a series of voice recordings labeled only with timestamps. Mara leaned closer. Play the first one. A woman's voice filled the room. Lena, I can't sleep anymore. I feel like someone's watching me, even inside my apartment. If something happens to me, tell them it wasn't an accident. The technician froze. You think she knew? She didn't just know, Mara said. She was expecting it. Another recording loaded automatically, this one muffled, Lena's tone urgent. Cole, please. I can't do this anymore. You said it was safe. You promised. Then a man's voice, low and sharp. Stop calling me. You're going to ruin everything. Static swallowed the last few seconds. Mara's pulse quickened. She replayed it, isolating the voice. Even distorted, the deep cadence was unmistakable. Warden Cole Madsen. Mara drove straight to her apartment. Laptop open on the passenger seat. Rain streaking across the windshield. She played the file again and again, listening for clues. In the background of Lena's voice were faint echoes, metallic clanks, rhythmic footsteps. It wasn't her apartment. It was a hallway, a prison hallway. The realization hit like a punch. Lena had recorded that message inside Blackridge. But how? She parked, heart hammering, and spread the case files across her kitchen table. Photos, receipts, logs, all of it pointed toward a secret connection, between Lena and Cole that ran deeper than a fair. Payments traced back to shell accounts linked to prison contractors. Security footage missing from a night she died. Someone had gone to great lengths to erase her, but left just enough behind for the truth to whisper back. She opened the next recovered file. A photo. Lena in a dimly lit car, her face illuminated by a phone screen. Behind her, barely visible through the reflection in the window, was a man's silhouette. Not Cole. Someone else. Someone watching. Mara zoomed in. The image pixelated, but the outline of a prison guard's badge shimmered faintly near the figure's shoulder. She grabbed her phone and dialed a forensics tech. Get me the serial number from Cole's private security logs. I want to know who was on night shift the evening Lena recorded that message. You got it, he said. She ended the call, staring at the photo again. Lena had been scared. She'd tried to warn someone, and whoever she trusted had silenced her instead. Outside, thunder rumbled, shaking the glass. Mara's reflection stared back at her in the window, the phone's glow painting her face in cold blue. She whispered, "You weren't just a secret, Lena. You were his leverage." And in the darkness of her apartment, another thought crept in. If Lena's hidden phone could reveal this much, what else was still buried inside Blackridge? The storm outside grew louder, wind slamming against the panes. Tomorrow, she'd go back to the prison. This time, not as a guest, but as a hunter. The rain had stopped by the time Detective Mara Ellis arrived at Blackridge Correctional Facility, but the clouds hung low and gray, heavy, suffocating, as if the sky itself disapproved of what was buried behind those concrete walls. The guards at the front gate recognized her now. She flashed her badge, expression unreadable. "I need to speak to your warden," she said. The younger officer hesitated. "He's unavailable, ma'am. Internal review meetings." "Then I'll speak to whoever's available," she replied coldly. "Because if I find out you're helping cover something up, everyone in this place will be answering to me." A flicker of fear crossed the man's eyes. He buzzed her through. The prison air was thick with disinfectant and rust. Footsteps echoed down the narrow halls as Mara followed a correctional officer named Hale, who walked a little too fast, like he wanted her gone as soon as possible. "You were here the night of March 16th, she said as they passed through the East Block. "That sound familiar?" Hale's jaw tightened. "Yeah, routine night. Nothing out of the ordinary. Except one of your inmates claims otherwise. That made him stop." "Who told you that?" "I don't reveal sources." He smirked, a short, nervous twitch. "Then you should know not to trust everything that comes out of these walls. They lie for sport in here." Mara stared at him, calm but cutting. "Maybe, but lies usually protect the truth." She left him there and made her way to cell block D, where the inmate she'd arranged to meet was waiting. Jeremiah Brooks, inmate number 40218, 38 years old, serving 15 for armed robbery. He sat on the other side of the glass partition, his hands cuffed, his expression somewhere between boredom and calculation. "You said you had information about Lena Hart." Mara began. He chuckled. "Yeah, the warden's little secret." Her eyes narrowed. "You knew about them?" Everyone knew. She came through here like she owned the place. Late nights, no log entries, private meetings with Cole Madsen. He leaned closer, voice dropping. "You don't sneak someone like her into a prison without people noticing." Problem was, she noticed things too. "What things?" He tapped his temple. "Money, transfers, fake contracts." She wasn't dumb, detective. She started asking questions, and people like the warden don't like that. Mara's pulse quickened. "You're saying she found something illegal?" "I'm saying she was digging in places she shouldn't. Couple nights before she died, she came here again. Didn't see the warden that time. Met someone else, one of his guards. Big guy, bald, tattoo on his neck. I think his name was Vince." Mara froze. She remembered the man from Elysium Lounge, watching her with that cold stare. "Vince?" she repeated. Jeremiah nodded. "Yeah. Heard her say she had proof, recordings, papers. Said if something happened to her, she'd make sure it all came out." "What happened after?" Jeremiah's grin faded. "She never came back." Back in her car, Mara sat in silence, the rain beginning again, gentle at first, then heavier, drowning the sound of her heartbeat. She thought about Vince at the club, about the hidden phone, about the name that kept echoing in every direction, Cole Madsen. She opened her notebook, flipping to the latest entry, March 16th, 1:07 a.m., the time of Lena's final call. If Lena had been inside Blackridge that night, as the recording suggested, someone had to let her in. That meant more than one person was involved. She whispered to herself. She was silence here, inside these walls. Lightning flashed in the rearview mirror, illuminating the looming shape of the prison behind her. Cold, unyielding, alive with secrets. Mara started her engine. There was one person left to confront. Someone who had been hiding behind composure and protocol since the moment she met him. Next stop, his house. Warden Cole Madsen. The wipers groaned across the windshield as Detective Mara Ellis pulled into the quiet suburban cul-de-sac that Warden Cole Madsen called home. It was far removed from the cold, gray walls of Blackridge, a manicured world of trimmed lawns and white fences. But beneath its calm perfection, Mara could sense the same rot she'd smelled in the prison halls. The Madsen house was large, 2 stories, pale stone, and too clean, like a photograph in a realtor's window. Lights glowed softly behind the curtains. Someone was home. Mara straightened her coat and walked to the door. It opened before she could knock. Dana Madsen stood there, slender, poised, eyes like chipped glass. She looked older than her age, her beauty muted by something heavy, something unspoken. "Detective Ellis," Dana said, her voice even controlled. "Cole isn't home. He's still at the facility." Mara smiled faintly. "That's fine. I actually came to see you." A pause, the kind that says I knew this was coming. Dana stepped aside. "Come in." The house smelled of coffee and polished wood. Family photos lined the hallway. A smiling couple with a teenage boy, vacations, birthdays, holidays. But in every frame, Cole's eyes looked the same, detached, watchful. Dana poured coffee, her movements calm but rehearsed. "I assume this is about the woman from the papers." "Lena Hart," Mara said, setting her recorder on the table. "You knew her?" "I knew of her." Dana's gaze didn't waver. "My husband mentioned she was troubled, one of the inmates' sisters. I think that's one way to put it." Mara leaned forward. "Did you know she was found dead with your husband's photo in her apartment?" Dana's hand froze midair, the cup trembling slightly before she steadied it. "No, I didn't." The lie was smooth, but her pulse gave her away, a faint flutter at the base of her throat. "Did you ever meet her in person?" Mara pressed. Dana hesitated. "No, but I saw her once." Her eyes darkened. "At the prison. I was dropping off lunch for Cole. She was leaving his office. And she looked scared, like she'd said something she shouldn't have." Silence stretched between them, filled only by the faint tick of the grandfather clock in the hallway. Mara softened her tone. "Mrs. Madsen, if your husband's in trouble, I need to know. If you help me now, I can protect you and your son." For the first time, Dana's composure cracked. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "You can't protect us from him." Mara leaned forward. "From Cole?" Dana didn't answer. Her eyes darted toward the staircase, where a young voice echoed faintly. A boy's voice. Ethan Madsen, maybe 16, lingered halfway down, pale and silent. "Mom!" Dana forced a smile. "It's okay, honey. Go back upstairs." He nodded but didn't move, staring at Mara with wary curiosity. Then, without a word, he disappeared into the shadows above. Dana turned back, voice trembling. "My husband has ways of making people disappear. Detective. If Lena's gone, it's because she got too close." Mara's chest tightened. "And you?" Dana's eyes met hers, full of quiet resignation. "I learned to stay far away." The front door opened suddenly. Heavy footsteps. Cole's voice. "Dana? Who's here?" In an instant, Dana's expression changed, calm, practiced. The mask slipped back into place. "Just someone from a neighborhood," she called out. Mara clicked off her recorder and stood, pocketing it in one fluid motion. She smiled politely as Cole entered the room, his face still damp from the rain. "Detective," he said coolly. "Didn't expect to see you here." "I was just leaving," Mara replied, stepping past him. Their eyes met, hers steady, his guarded. "You should be careful, Detective," he said softly. "People might start thinking you're obsessed." She smiled faintly. They wouldn't be wrong. Outside, Mara exhaled the breath she'd been holding. Through the front window, she caught a glimpse of Dana standing perfectly still, staring after her husband with eyes that no longer hid their fear. Mara murmured to herself as she climbed into her car, "She's not just scared. She's trapped." And somewhere behind those walls, behind the silence of a loyal wife, there was truth, waiting to be unburied. Rain beat against the windows of Detective Mara Ellis's office that night, painting the glass in streaks of silver. The clock read past midnight, yet she couldn't leave, not with her mind replaying the fear in Dana Madsen's eyes. It wasn't the fear of a guilty woman. It was a fear of someone who knew too much and knew she couldn't speak. Mara's desk was buried beneath folders, photographs, and transcripts. The crime scene images of Lena Hart stare back at her, the overturned chair, the shattered lamp, the single bullet wound. But it wasn't the blood that haunted her. It was a small envelope on the nightstand, sealed but unsent. She had dismissed it before as a meaningless prop, but now something gnawed at her. Reaching for the evidence bag, she slid it out and carefully unfolded the yellowed paper inside. Her breath caught as she read the first line, written in shaky, desperate handwriting. "If something happens to me, it wasn't an accident." Mara's fingers tightened on the page. She read further. "He promised he'd protect me. He said I was the only one who understood him. But now he says I've become a risk. I can't keep his secret anymore. I'm scared of what he'll do and who he'll make disappear next." The signature at the bottom was smudged, but the name was unmistakable. Lena Hart. Mara leaned back, the chair creaking beneath her weight. The letter wasn't just a confession of fear. It was a death warrant, written days before Lena's body was found. But what secret had she threatened to expose? Mara flipped the page over. There, faintly pressed into the paper, was a partial imprint, the kind left when someone wrote another letter on top of it. She rubbed a pencil lightly across the surface, coaxing the indentation to life. 2 words emerged. For Ethan. Her pulse quickened. Ethan Madsen? The warden's son? Before she could process it, her phone buzzed. The caller ID flashed private number. She hesitated, then answered. "Detective Ellis." A voice, quiet, trembling, filled the line. "You shouldn't have gone to the house." "Who is this?" A pause. Then a whisper. "He knows you're reading the letter." The line went dead. Mara's heart pounded. She scanned the office windows, suddenly aware of how exposed she was. Someone was watching. Someone close. She pulled her jacket on, grabbed her files, and left the precinct. The city streets were empty, the air thick with tension. Every red light felt like an eternity. When she finally reached home, exhaustion gave way to something else. Dread. On her doorstep lay another envelope. No stamp, no address. Just her name, typed neatly. Her hands shook as she opened it. Inside was a single sheet of paper. "Stop digging, detective, or you'll end up like her." No signature. No trace. Just a faint scent of prison-issued ink, the kind used on official Blackridge forms. Mara stared at the words until her vision blurred. The game had changed. This wasn't about uncovering a truth anymore. It was about survival. She placed Lena's letter beside the new one, aligning them edge to edge. Somewhere in the mess of secrets, 2 stories had merged, one of a woman who loved the wrong man, and another of a wife who dared not speak. Mara whispered to herself, "Whatever Lena knew, Ethan's the key." She folded both letters and slipped them into her coat pocket. There was only one place left to go, back to the prison, where every wall had ears and every shadow could be the last thing she saw. Outside, the storm had broken. Lightning split the sky in 2 as Mara started the car and drove toward Blackridge Penitentiary, unaware that someone had already called ahead, and that Warden Cole Madsen was waiting for her arrival. The air inside Blackridge Penitentiary was heavier than usual, a thick mix of metal, bleach, and tension that clung to skin like guilt. Detective Mara Ellis walked past the security gate, her badge flashing under the harsh fluorescent lights. Every clank of a door behind her felt like another warning. You shouldn't be here. The guard escorting her, Officer Riley, kept his eyes forward. Warden said you'd be visiting an inmate, he muttered. Didn't say which one. That's because I didn't tell him, Mara replied quietly. She had arranged this interview through a back channel, an inmate named Luis Ortega, who once worked maintenance inside the warden's private office wing. Word was he'd seen something the night Lena Hart came to visit for the last time. Riley led her to interview room C, small, gray, and humming with the low buzz of ceiling fan that never quite worked. The table was bolted to the floor. Moments later, the door opened and Louis stepped in, lean, tattooed, eyes sharp but cautious. He looked at Mara with recognition. You're the cop asking about the dead girl. Mara nodded. Lena Hart, you said you saw something. He sat down, his chains rattling softly. Yeah, but I didn't see it happen. I just heard things. Late one night after lockdown. Go on. Luis's eyes darted to the mirrored wall. You sure this ain't being recorded? Mara gave a faint smile. Let's assume it's not. He leaned forward. Lena came here a few times. Not official visits. Late. The warden would clear the cameras in that corridor. Told the control room it was maintenance downtime. But that last night, things went bad. Mara felt a chill rise along her arms. What do you mean, bad? Luis took a deep breath. I heard shouting, her voice begging him to listen. Then his calm at first, then angry, like someone who lost control after being caught. He paused, glancing again toward the mirror. Then I heard something else. A gunshot. Mara stiffened. Here? Inside the prison? Sounded like it. I ran. But the hallway lights flickered. Everything went dark. Next morning, that same corridor was spotless. Smelled like bleach. He told everyone there'd been a busted pipe. Mara's pulse quickened. Did you tell anyone? Luis laughed bitterly. You think anyone listens to an inmate over a warden? I'd be in a ditch if I did. She studied his face. So why tell me now? Because he's losing control, Luis whispered. You poked the bear, detective. Now he's poking back. Mara's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. One line only. Leave him alone or your badge won't save you. Her stomach tightened. She turned the phone face down and continued. Luis, you mentioned shouting. Did you catch any names? He nodded slowly. She said something about the boy. Said he didn't deserve to suffer for their mistakes. The boy. Mara's thoughts flashed to Ethan Madsen. Luis looked uneasy now, his voice dropping to a whisper. You didn't hear this from me. But if Lena had something on the warden, something that could ruin him, it wasn't about money. It was about family. Before Mara could ask more, the door burst open. 2 guards entered, faces stone cold. Interviews over, one said. Warden's orders. Mara rose slowly. Since when does the warden oversee homicide investigations? Since now. They escorted her out. She turned once, catching Luis's eyes, filled with silent warning. As the steel door slammed behind her, she caught sight of Cole Madsen waiting near the security gate, his hands clasped, a faint smile cutting across his face. Detective, he said smoothly, you really should schedule your visits through proper channels. I prefer the truth over procedure, she shot back. He leaned in just enough for her to hear. Then you'll find neither here. Mara stepped past him, heart pounding. But as she reached her car, she realized something chilling. Luis hadn't confessed to witnessing a murder. He'd confessed to surviving one. And if he was right, Lena Hart's death wasn't the only secret buried behind those walls. The night after her unsettling visit to Blackridge, Detective Mara Ellis couldn't shake the warden's smile from her mind, that smug, knowing grin of a man too confident in his power. Every instinct screamed that he wasn't just hiding something. He was protecting something. She sat in her apartment surrounded by files, photographs, and the 2 letters, Lena's desperate note and the anonymous warning. The clock ticked past 2 a.m. when her phone buzzed with a new message. No name, no greeting, Just a link and 3 words. You need proof. Her pulse quickened. The link led to a private cloud folder. 1 file. No title. No description. Just a timestamp from 2 years ago. July 11, 2023. The same date Lena had last visited the prison. She hesitated, then hit play. The screen flickered with security footage, grainy, low light. It showed a corridor inside Blackridge, one that looked recently mopped, almost too clean. Then a door opened. Lena Hart appeared. She looked nervous, clutching her phone. The camera's angle caught part of her face, pale, tense, afraid. She stepped into the hallway, glancing behind her. Moments later, Warden Cole Madsen followed. His jacket was off, his face unreadable. There was no sound, but the argument was clear in their gestures. Lena pleading, Cole towering over her. She tried to leave. He grabbed her arm. She broke free, fumbling in her pocket. A phone. She held it up, shouting something the camera couldn't catch. Cole froze, then reached for her again. She shoved him. He stepped closer. The footage glitched for a second, static, then darkness. When it returned, Lena was gone. Only the warden remained, breathing hard, wiping something from his hands before walking out of frame. Mara's breath caught. My God! She replayed it twice, her eyes scanning every detail. Something didn't fit. The timestamp jumped mid-video, a few seconds missing. Someone had edited the footage. But who had leaked it? Her laptop chimed again. A new message from the same sender. There's more. Check Ethan's tablet. She froze. Ethan Madsen, the warden's son. The same name Lena mentioned in her letter. Without hesitation, Mara grabbed her keys and headed out into the rain. Ethan's room was dimly lit when Dana opened the door. She looked exhausted, her face hollow. He's sleeping, she said quietly. I need to see his tablet, Mrs. Madsen. It's important. Dana hesitated, her hand trembling on the doorframe. He doesn't know what's on it. He found it months ago in his father's office. Said it was just old prison files. Mara's voice softened. Please, let me take a look. Dana nodded slowly and disappeared inside. Moments later, she returned with the tablet. Old, scratched, locked with a 4-digit pin. Mara turned it over. A faint sticker on the back read, Property of Blackridge Correctional Administration. As Mara entered the serial number into her database, the screen flickered and unlocked automatically, as if someone wanted her to find what came next. A single folder sat on the home screen. July 11th. She tapped it. Inside were several short clips, all labeled Camera 12. The same hallway, the same night. But this time, the missing seconds were there. The final clip showed Lena's phone sliding across the floor after she fell out of frame. Cole bent down, picked it up, and pocketed it. Then, faintly, from the end of the hall, a small figure appeared. A teenage boy. Ethan. He froze, seeing his father standing over something, or someone just out of view. The camera ended there. Mara's hand shook as she whispered. Ethan saw everything. And if he had, that meant the warden's carefully built world was about to crack open, one secret at a time. The rain hadn't stopped when Detective Mara Ellis parked outside the Madsen home again. Thunder rolled low across the horizon, the kind of sound that made even quiet streets feel haunted. Her hands rested on the steering wheel, gripping tight as she stared at the lights glowing in the upstairs window, Ethan's room. She didn't need a warrant to know the truth anymore. The footage from the tablet was enough to shift the entire case. But what frightened her most wasn't what she saw. It was who else had seen it. She stepped out, pulling her coat close as she approached the door. Before she could knock, Dana Madsen opened it, her eyes rimmed red from sleeplessness. I knew you'd come, Dana whispered. Where's Ethan? Mara asked gently. Dana glanced up the staircase. He's been quiet since last night. He found out you were here before. He doesn't trust anyone now. Not even me. Mara nodded. I need to talk to him. Please. After a tense moment, Dana stepped aside. He's in his room. But be careful. He's not the same boy anymore. Ethan's room was dark, lit only by the blue glow of a computer screen. He sat at the desk, headphones off, watching something, the same footage Mara had seen. He didn't turn when she entered. "You found it too," he said softly. "Yes," Mara replied. "It's why I'm here." Ethan finally turned. His face was pale, eyes swollen. "You think my dad killed her?" Mara hesitated. "I think your dad's hiding something, and I think you know what it is." He looked down, his hands trembling. "He told me she left town, that she was trying to ruin him because he didn't love her back. But I saw the truth." He motioned to the screen. The frozen image of Cole standing in the corridor filled the room. "He didn't know I was there," Ethan continued. "I came to find him because Mom and I were supposed to go to dinner. I saw him arguing with her. He grabbed her, pushed her, and then his voice cracked. Then she stopped moving." Mara stayed quiet, letting him breathe. "I tried to tell Mom," he said, staring at the floor. "But she said we had to stay quiet. That people like Dad always win." "She was trying to protect you," Mara said softly. He nodded. "But he knows I saw. That's why he took my tablet. I only got it back after he thought he deleted everything." Mara stepped closer. "Ethan, listen to me. That video could put your father away for life. But I need your help to make it official. You're the only witness." Tears welled in his eyes. "If I talk, he'll hurt her. My mom. You don't know what he's capable of." "I do," Mara said, her tone steady. "And that's exactly why you have to trust me." Ethan stared at her for a long moment. Then, without a word, he reached under his desk and pulled out a small USB drive, taped beneath the drawer. "This has everything," he whispered. "Not just that night. All of it." Mara took it carefully. "You did the right thing." He swallowed hard. "No, detective. I just signed our death sentence." Before she could answer, the lights flickered. Once, twice. Then went out completely. From downstairs came the sound of front doors slamming open. Dana's scream pierced the silence. Mara's instincts kicked in. "Stay here," she shouted, reaching for a gun as she bolted for stairs. Lightning flashed through the window, illuminating a tall silhouette in the doorway. Cole Madsen, soaked from the rain, eyes cold and unblinking. "You should have stayed out of my house, detective," he said calmly. Mara froze, every muscle tense, realizing that the game of secrets had just turned into a fight for survival. The thunder roared like a warning as Detective Mara Ellis stood face to face with Warden Cole Madsen, his tall frame filling the doorway like a shadow come alive. Rainwater dripped from his coat onto the polished floor, pooling between them. Dana's scream still echoed faintly upstairs, followed by hurried footsteps and the soft creak of a door. She had locked herself in, or maybe she'd just frozen in fear. Cole's voice was calm, too calm. "You've been digging in things you don't understand, detective. Do you have any idea what this will do to my family?" Mara's hand inched toward her holster. "You did that yourself, Warden. The truth was buried with Lena Hart. And your son, leave my son out of this." Cole barked, stepping closer. The fury in his eyes cracked a massive composure he wore like armor. "He's a child. He doesn't know what he saw." Mara didn't flinch. "He knows enough. And so do I." "That video," Cole's jaw tightened. "You mean the one you think you have? You have no idea how deep this goes." Before she could answer, a voice called from upstairs, trembling, broken. "Dad, stop." Ethan stood halfway down the staircase, pale and shaking, holding the small USB drive in his fist. "I told her everything." Cole's eyes darkened. "Ethan, son, listen to me. You're scared. She's lying to you." "She's not." Ethan's voice cracked. "I saw what you did. I saw her fall. I saw you cover up, and Mom," he stopped, glancing toward the hallway. "Mom's been protecting you all this time." Cole's expression hardened. The air between them grew suffocating. "Your mother doesn't understand what that woman was," he said quietly, stepping toward his son. "Lena wasn't a victim. She was blackmailing me, threatening to destroy our family. Everything I did was to keep you safe." "Safe?" Ethan's voice trembled. "You killed her." The words hung heavy in the air. Dana appeared at the top of the stairs, tears streaking her face. "Cole, please," she whispered. "Don't do this. It's over." Cole looked between them, his wife, his son, the detective standing with her gun half drawn, and for the first time, he seemed small. The confident warden, the untouchable man, was unraveling. "I loved her," he muttered. "You think I wanted this?" She said she was pregnant, that the baby was mine. She would have ruined us all. Mara's stomach turned. Pregnant. That was the missing piece. The secret Lena had hinted at in her letter. Cole's voice grew softer, lost in memory. She begged me to tell the truth. I tried to make her leave quietly, but she fought back. I pushed her too hard. She hit the floor, and I panicked. He sank onto the bottom stair, his head in his hands. I cleaned it up, made it look like she'd taken her own life. I thought it was over. Mara's voice was cold. "And the letters? The threats? You sent them too, didn't you?" He looked up at her, eyes hollow. "I needed you to stop before you found Ethan's name, before you destroyed what little was left of my family." The room fell silent, except for the rumble of thunder outside. Ethan's voice came out barely above a whisper. "You already destroyed it, Dad." Cole looked at his son, and for a fleeting second, something broke in him. Regret, fear, love twisted into ruin. Then, slowly, he stood. "If you hand that drive over," he said to Mara, "you'll end more than just my career. You'll destroy them too." Mara met his gaze. "No, Warden. The truth already did that." He didn't fight when she reached for her cuffs. He didn't even look at her. His eyes stayed on Ethan, silent, almost pleading. When she led him outside into the storm, Dana clung to her son, sobbing quietly. As the car door slammed and Cole was driven away, Ethan turned to Mara. "What happens now?" She looked at him, the boy who had seen too much, too young. "Now," she said softly, "we tell the story the right way." But as she watched the patrol car vanish into the rain, her phone buzzed. A new message appeared on the screen, from the same unknown number as before. "You caught the wrong man." Mara froze, the chill running down her spine. In the reflection of the window, her own eyes looked back, uncertain, haunted, because deep down she knew there was still one secret left unburied. The message glared back at Detective Mara Ellis through the rain-specked phone screen. "You caught the wrong man." For a moment, she thought it was a cruel prank, the kind that always surfaced after a big arrest. But the number, it was the same one that had sent her cryptic clues weeks ago. The same number that had led her to Lena Hart's hidden phone. And now it was back. Mara looked through the windshield at the patrol car disappearing down the soaked road, Warden Cole Madsen sitting motionless in the back seat. She should have felt relief. Case closed, confession obtained, justice served. But instead, a cold unease crept over her, whispering that something was still terribly wrong. Inside the Madsen house, Ethan sat on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, his mother Dana silently holding his hand. The storm outside had faded to a light drizzle, but the heaviness inside remained. Who was that message from? Dana asked quietly, noticing Mara's expression. "I'm not sure," Mara said, slipping her phone into her coat. "But it came from the same number that sent Lena's location." Dana's face went pale. "You mean someone else was involved?" "That's what I need to find out." She stepped outside again, the air thick with the scent of rain and pine. Something about Cole's confession didn't sit right. His story fit the evidence too neatly, too perfectly. The panic, the cover-up, the guilt, all real, yes. But Lena's death? The timeline had gaps. The call logs were missing minutes. And then there was the baby. Back at her car, Mara opened her laptop and accessed the encrypted drive Ethan had handed over. It contained video fragments Lena had recorded, part of her plan to expose Cole. But one of the clips she hadn't seen before now autoplayed, the timestamp from a night she died. The video was shaky, dimly lit by a motel lamp. Lena's voice trembled. "If something happens to me, it's not just Cole. He's scared of someone else. Someone who's been watching both of us. He says they know everything. I don't trust anyone, not even him anymore." The screen glitched, then froze on her terrified face. Mara sat back, heart pounding. Lena hadn't been blackmailing the warden. She'd been running from someone. Someone who had power over both of them. She replayed the last seconds of the clip, a faint sound barely audible under the static. A man's voice, calm, deep, with a southern accent. "You talk too much, Lena." Then the video cut off. Mara's stomach dropped. That voice wasn't Cole's. She immediately called the forensic lab. "I need an urgent voice match on an audio sample. Run against every officer, every staff member at Redstone Correctional. Now." By morning, the results came back. The voice matched someone she knew, Deputy Warden Hank Drayton. Her breath caught. Drayton had been Cole's right hand for over a decade. Loyal, quiet, invisible. The kind of man no one ever questioned. Mara grabbed her keys and sped toward Redstone Prison, the rising sun casting long shadows across the wet highway. She called ahead, but Drayton wasn't on duty. No one had seen him since last night. When she reached his office, the door was ajar. Paper scattered across the floor, the desk drawers open. Inside one, a flash drive labeled confidential was half buried under old files. She plugged it into her laptop. There were photos, Lena with Cole, Lena outside the prison, and one that made Mara's pulse quicken. Lena with Drayton, laughing, her arm around him. A cold realization hit. Lena wasn't just involved with Cole. She'd been seeing Drayton too. And that meant the baby might not have been the warden's. Drayton had motive, jealousy, rage, and access to everything, including the prison cameras, the security codes, and Lena's cell phone evidence. Mara closed the laptop just as her phone buzzed again. Another message. "You're close, but you still don't see the whole picture." She spun around. No one was there, only the hum of fluorescent lights. Then she noticed something taped under Drayton's desk, a small envelope with her name scrawled across it. Inside was a printed photo. Lena, smiling, holding a newborn wrapped in a hospital blanket. The date read 2 months before her death. On the back of the photo, one line was written in shaky pen. "Find him before they do." Mara stared at the words, her mind racing. Lena's baby. Alive. Hidden. Someone wanted to erase every trace of the child, and that someone wasn't done yet. As thunder rumbled again outside the prison walls, Mara realized this case wasn't about revenge or secrecy anymore. It was about survival for whoever Lena had trusted with that baby. She pocketed the photo, her pulse steadying with grim determination. "All right, Lena," she whispered. "Let's finish this." She walked out into the rain, unaware of the figure watching from a black SUV across the parking lot. Deputy Warden Drayton, his expression unreadable. Phone pressed his ear. "She took the bait," he said softly. "Now make sure she never find the boy."